fishing isn't all about fishing wagglers in open water. Today we're confronted with an island that's probably just out of pole range, 22 metres or so, and by using little floats like this, tight up against the island, you can have some of your best days fishing. As you can see just behind us, we've got just a point of an island, and that's an amazing place to target. It's around 3 foot deep there, and something the fish don't see very often is pellets falling through the water. People tend to attack these kind of pegs with method feeders and bombs, fishing on the bottom. But trust me, by fishing a waggler, you can catch a lot more than the boys just doing the standard stuff around you. Today, I'm going to show you everything I've learned about this method. Recently, I won a match on a festival just 2 pegs down. I caught literally 90% of my fish just fishing this waggler, pinging a few pellets. So let me show you how I go about it. So when it comes to kit, you need a couple of really important things. Obviously, pellet waggler fishing, we need some nice floats. Now, you're not going to be chucking like a 6-gram waggler 22 metres. So for that reason, I've just got some 2 SSG wagglers. They're little guru ones. Again, fixed up on those little links. I just find they cast so much nicer when they're done like that. So I've got a couple of them. Now, one bit of kit I find myself using more and more for waggler fishing are these shorter 10-foot rods. That's a 10-foot Aventus there, matched up a 3000 reel, 3000 Aventus reel on there, and on for reel line, I'm not a fan of these really light lines on the waggler, especially for fishing up to features. I guess I know this island's undercut. It's probably about 3 foot off this island. I've drawn it before, and I know they will try and do you underneath the roots and stuff. So a nice 020 mainline, that's £6, Pulse Pro, nice and durable. And again, what I've gone for is that 2 foot of fluorocarbon with all my little stops, waggler swivel, all attached to that. So any wrap overs, anytime I move those rubbers up and down, that's going to take the brunt of the damage. And also, like I said before, it helps you turn your pellet over because it's quite stiff. To that, I've just got a simple loop, and then I'll just loop to loop a 12-inch hook length, which will be 019 N gauge to a 16 SMWG. I don't often use anything apart from that hook. Maybe if I was going to Larford, Barston, maybe I would use a 14 for those great big ones, but for these kind of waters, I just think a 16 is a perfect all-round size. So the next bit of kit that's super important is a catapult. Obviously, we're going to be loose feeding pellets against the island, so I want a nice, reliable catapult. It's not going to snap all the time. Elastics aren't going to pull free, and it's going to group my pellets really nicely around that point. So firstly, always look for a nice hard plastic pouch. So much better for grouping your bait, especially when you're fishing with pellets. Just keeps them nice and tight, which is really important in any style of fishing. Black elastic on this one, super durable, got a nice bit of power in it as well, but it's not over the top. What's nice with this catapult is you don't need to pull, stretch it right back to feed. It's just a case of holding the pouch by your chest, pushing your right hand forward and almost just lobbing your pellets out. That's how you get them to group really nicely. When you start doing all this business, try to force them out there, that's when they just go off in all sorts of directions. So don't get a really light catapult, but at the same time, don't go for one of the really thick, powerful ones because they'll spray a bit. Nice middle ground. We're going to be looking to fish, what's that going to be, 22, 23 metres. So it's just going to be a case of almost just lobbing them out there, let them all group around the point of that island nice. And that's just on a nice light frame, nice in the hand to hold. We're not reinventing the wheel with the frame. They're pretty much standard, all of them. So the pouch and the elastic, I think, is the most important part. And then for feed, again, just the simple fishery pellets, they are 8 mils. I don't want to force trying to get 6 mils out there. I'm just happy feeding them 8 mils. Makes life easier for myself. We're fishing for carp and big F1s, so I'm not worried about, fishing an 8 mil. Now, the most important thing with this method is the most difficult part of the method, and that's clipping up to the island. It's a lot easier, obviously, when you do it with the bomb or a method feeder. You've got that nice bit of weight. Everything's easier. You can feel it going in and stuff. With a waggler, it's a little bit more tricky, but by doing it properly, taking the time, not rushing it, you can clip up super tight to these islands. And trust me, when you get it right and you're confident in what you're doing, you just catch so many fish on this method. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly show you how I go about clipping up. It'll take a couple of casts, no doubt, but it's worth spending the time to get it ultra tight, and that's where the fish tend to live. So let me just set the camera up and I can show you exactly how I'm going to clip up. Okay, so we're ready to clip up. Now, everything's on, the float and everything's on. I've just got that loop to loop. Obviously, don't put a hook length on when you're trying to clip up because you're just going to be asking for trouble. So first thing I'm going to do, I know what I want to fish just past the point sort of up the side of the island, and then you've got all that sort of grass there at the back. So in that little cove is where I want to be fishing. That's what I caught when I was on here last time. So to start, I'm just going to like make sure I'm nice and straight, in line with where I'm chucking. Obviously, if I veer off left, I'm going in the tree. If I veer off right, I'm in open water, which is no good. So I'm just going to line up and just get my eye in the first couple of casts. Like, obviously, I'm absolutely nowhere near there, but I can just sort of gauge now how much more power to give the next cast. That wind has just turned on us a little bit, but next chuck. So there you are. That is sort of in the realm there now, but I want to be a little bit further back again. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to take sort of 3 foot of line, and then we're going to be fishing to a clip today. You've got to if you're fishing to cover. There's no way, two ways about that. So that's on the clip. I know that's not going to put me in the island. This is going to be short again, but it's just about fine-tuning it. So this wind is typically just blowing in our face now, but we're still going to have a go at it. So punch that. Like you can see there, a little bit further again. I'm probably looking from here, maybe 5 foot off where I want to be, but what I'm going to do, another 3 foot, get in the realm, and then it's about fine-tuning it. Obviously, I haven't got a hook on here now, so I'm going to leave it a little bit short to start with, and then when I start fishing and I've got a hook bait on, I can just sort of inch it off then, off the spool to where I want to be. So nice and positive, nice firm chuck. That went in like a bag of spanners, but let's just try that one again. Again, nice and positive with the chuck in. See, we're sort of starting to get in there now. What's nice there by fishing there is I've got island to my left and island in front of me, so I've got sort of, you know, sort of 2 bites of the cherry if I want. If I chuck it a little bit shorter and it lands there, I'm still fishing against the left-hand part of the island, whereas if I want to chuck it further, I've got the back of the island. So this time, just sort of 18 inches off the spool. Again, a nice, positive, firm chuck. That wasn't the best chuck in the world. That wind has just got that. There you are. So that's sort of in the realm there where I want it now. Right, so we are finally ready to start. And what I'm going to do to start, I'm just going to ping a few 8mm out there. That wind is a little bit awkward now, but I'm just going to show you, like, so what I want to do, I just want to hold the pouch close to my chest and then push away with the arm that's holding the carty. I don't want to stretch the guts out of it, and I don't mind those pellets dropping a little bit shorter where we're fishing. So just out to them. As you can see there, they've gone in absolutely beautifully there. It's not a case of like hammering loads of pellets in. I think the fish naturally live around these islands. So I'll ping a few more. I'm going to start at sort of 18 inches deep on this waggler. That's why I haven't gone like super tight to start with. So punch him in. He's a little bit off to the right, but that's okay, just to start. It'll take you a few chucks just to get your eye in. Don't go for a hole-in-one straight away. So just feel your way in, and the more you chuck it, the more confident you'll get, and then what you'll find, you'll get into a nice little rhythm, just like fishing a method feeder. Like you'll have a few casts to start, which probably aren't on the money, but the more and more you chuck it, the more accurate you'll become and more confident. So just before I feed it, that's where the rest is there. I can just sort of leave my rod on the rest. So I'm nice and hands-free to feed. That wind is just kicking up a touch, so it's going to make feeding just a little bit awkward at the minute. It's typical because when I started the session, there wasn't a breath of wind here. There we go. But that's what you're faced with. So again, a nice punch. That's gone in. The pellet's turned over. So I'll just give it a couple of seconds to see if one grabs on the splash. If not, just straighten up the line again. So I'm twitched it now back towards the point. So you might get a chance of another bite there. No bites, so back in again. What I want to make sure I'm doing is feeding before I chuck it in, because I don't want to be picking up the catapult when it's out there. When I'm actually fishing, I want to be concentrating on the fishing. That one's gone a little bit wayward, but there we go. Now he was just off the island, but you can find like early on in your session where they're a little bit easier to catch. Like when I was just on peg 8, my first 10 probably come 3 or 4 foot off the island, which is nice because they're a lot easier to catch. But the more you catch, what you'll find is they'll end up going tighter and tighter to the island, becoming harder to catch. So that's where your casting's got to be on point. So that's a nice little carp to start with. We've got that nice strong gear on, so we're not taking any rubbish off of him. Be nice and firm with him. Here he comes, look. Nice little mirror to start on. How about him then? Great little start that is. Third chuck was it. And that's what it's like around the islands. You do tend to catch them quite quick. It's the same as if, you know, when you fish a pole to the island and go across, tap a few pellets in, a lot of the time you can get one straight away. And that's very similar to this method. So again, just flick a waggler in. That rest is just, you know, I never really fish with it on the rest, but it's just nice just to have that there. It's not in the way when I'm netting them. So just ping a few pellets there like that. That wind has just dropped now. To punch it in. Oh, I sort of had a jab then, made me jump. If I keep missing these few indications, I'll shallow up. See, that's nice. So I've got a little bit of a bow in my line, so I'm just going to quickly flick that, straighten it up. I'll just twitch the pellet then, help it rise up a little bit. But there now, that sort of feels like no man's land, so I'll buzz it back in again. What I could do with is this wind not blowing in no beaks like this. So I'm not going to feed for a minute because I don't want them going absolutely everywhere. See, this wind is just absolutely wrecking this now for the minute. Right, so as you can probably see, conditions have turned on us a little bit now. So what I've done, I've just put on the next size up. That's a 4 gram waggler now. It's not ideally what I want to use for this kind of fishing. I like those small floats just so it just plops in nicely, but there's no point trying to fish like that if the wind is blowing like this and you just end up with getting a massive bow in your line and you can't get the distance. So for now, I'm going to have a few chucks with this. I'm sure we'll still catch a few on it. It's just going to help us with our accuracy. So just plop that in. That's absolutely perfect there. So I'm going to just let it hang there for a second, give it a twitch, and then just off the main point. So I sort of give it to like 10 seconds. If it hasn't gone by then, mend him. There we go. Oh. It doesn't take long when you catch them like this to put a good weight together. And this is what it was like when I fished that match on peg 8. I know I keep referring back to it, but it's just sort of, it's sort of similar the way it's panning out. I probably caught 140 pound of my 170 pound on the waggler that day. And I probably caught 90 pound of that quite early, like what we're doing now, you know, where my casting probably, you know, let's be honest, my casting isn't the best at the minute. But we can sort of get away with it. But the more we do it, the more confidence we get in our line clip, the more confidence we get with how hard we can punch this waggler, it'll all just start dropping into place nicely then. But as it is, just for now, not fishing the best, if I'm honest, my casting, but we're still catching a few. So again, a couple of pellets. There's a couple of dark looking clouds coming over there. I don't want it to rain now. Where are they coming from now? So punch him in. Give him till I count to 10 again. Twitch him. I'm not happy with that. Oh, I don't know how you can get away with that sometimes. So what I want to do is just follow those pellets now straight in over the top of them. It's a touch short, but we'll give it a second or two. No. There we are, we're on the grass again. Oh. I don't know what happened then. Literally just went to pick up the wind in and there's one hanging on the end of it. I thought there was a piece of grass on. That's a non-fighting carp, huh? If I've ever hooked one. What's the matter with this carp? Oh, it's a little F1, look. A little wobbly F1. Let's look. Hooked to the top lip. So I missed that then because that bow in my line wasn't direct enough to wear. And if my next chuck or two does that again, I'm going to put that big float on. There we go. That was just on the hang there a little bit. Got him on the hang. As you can probably tell, like them casts where you think that's going to go, 9 times out of 10 they do tend to go, and that's why you've just got to keep chucking it all the time and just doing the numbers game. You know, eventually, you know, if you get 20 casts, you know, you like to think at least half of them will be absolute money, and then, you know, if 8 of them turn into fish, that's quite a nice little return. If you was like super flat calm, not a breath of wind, you can be a bit more consistent, but as it is now, you're having an odd gust blowing up, and that's just enough to set this smaller float off target. Little squeaker one. Let's look. We've been in here a few years, but look at him. So much easier to be accurate with this bigger float. Oh, I was just about to say I'm not happy with the way it goes in, but at the minute it's not making much of a difference. Proper nice bit of fishing this is when you're chucking it up against these islands. Such good fun. So I'm going to net this one and sign off for today, but I'll catch up with you on the next tutorial video.